Morning. It's still Thursday, September 10th. This is a meeting of the Legislative and Human Resources Committee. We'll call this meeting to order. It looks like 9:50 a.m. First thing on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to address the body this morning? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes from our August 11, 2015 minute.
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Vonk, support by Commissioner Antor. Any questions, comments on the minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Nay, same sign. Motion carries. Next up on the agenda is Human Resources Performance Measurements 5-minute update. Good morning again, Amy.
Good morning. I'm back. Okay. I wanted to thank you for giving the opportunity to present a brief update on the PMs for the HR department. I plan to focus primarily on the current goals that the department would like to achieve this year and next, and I will pepper in some achievements and accomplishments that are related to those goals. I would welcome any questions you might have outside of that content related to the other content that is in the handout that was provided to all of you. The HR department has 5 goals that I'm going to review. The first is to renew and achieve ratification votes, hopefully, for all of the collective bargaining agreements that are set to expire at the end of this year. There are several. There are UAW general and courts units agreements, prosecutors, the public health nurses at the health department, the sheriff department captains, lieutenants, and the corrections officers. Hopefully I didn't forget anybody. The court reporters, I think I forgot them. So we have a lot of negotiations taking place right now. It's a very busy time for us. The UAW is farther along than any of the other units, and we just talked about where we're at with that unit. The other units are all still in negotiations, not yet to the point of a ratification vote. Our second goal is to make sure that our compensation program is aligned with the county's long-term priorities and goals for compensation. There's been a lot of work, particularly in terms of unionized positions in the last year. We have not only conducted a comprehensive market assessment, but we have married that with an assessment of internal equity that has been conducted by several members of the HR department, and the outcome of that study has been incorporated into the union contract negotiations conversations that are underway this year. Our third priority is to deploy technology solutions that help to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of the services that we provide in human resources. There are 2 projects that have been completed this year that forward progress toward that goal. The first is in February. We automated what was a manual and ineffective process to transfer information related to employee change of status. So somebody is hired, they have a pay change, so on and so forth. That process is now a lot more transparent, user-friendly, and quick. The second thing that we did was we recently rolled out a tool that allows for any employee, anytime, anywhere, to run their own estimates for retirement benefits. Before, they had to go through the Retirement Services Department, and they were running upward of 50 estimates a quarter because people would have repeat estimate requests and that kind of thing. So that really did save a lot of time and energy and offer a great convenience to employees who are interested in looking at what that retirement benefit has to offer. We also are in the process of implementing a new HRIS solution that is scheduled to be deployed in April of 2016. That solution will also improve efficiency and effectiveness, not only by providing better information in terms of reporting tools, but it also has a much more robust employee and manager self-service system, so a lot of people will be able to have better access to information anytime to manage their own affairs and to view whatever information that is interesting to them in terms of their HR processes. The fourth priority is to help to assist with any HR matters related to the transition to the new airport authority. We have helped in a number of ways with this, including influencing the language in the enabling legislation that pertains to the impact on employees associated with the transfer, assisting in the process of identifying and selecting a new HR manager for the airport, assisting in the process of transitioning benefits from the county to the airport, and coordinating with the UAW to identify and resolve any issues related to the impact on employees in terms of the union contract associated with the transfer. That work will continue on throughout the airport transition period, hopefully culminating in that process being complete in July. Our fifth priority is to basically give a total refresh to the county's learning and development program. What we did last year was we went out and we talked to every department head and we said, what are your challenges, what are your priorities, what are your needs in terms of employee learning and development, and we revamped our program in accordance with what we heard from our customers in the county departments. One thing that we did was we implemented a new leadership program. I would call it like a nuts and bolts program for new leaders, newly hired leaders, or people who are just looking for a refresher in things like effective hiring, how to make sure you're in compliance with legal requirements, understanding how the collective bargaining agreements and the policies and procedures operate, FMLA administration, kind of all of those nuts and bolts things that any new supervisor sometimes is faced with, where the program is kind of a drop-in. You can drop into any of the monthly sessions, and we've received good feedback so far that it's helpful. Another thing that we did was we totally revamped our existing LEAP general training curriculum to make sure that the offerings that were included in that curriculum were consistent with what departments said they needed. We also have resurrected an annual leadership forum that the county used to hold in an effort to try to focus on making sure that the 5 absolutes that the county believes are critical for any leader to understand and apply are reinforced and institutionalized countywide within our leadership population. That is the end of the quick 5-minute update. Before I take any questions, I did want to take a minute to thank the HR team, and some members of that team are here today. This has been an incredibly busy and stressful year, as I would say we're kind of in the soup right now, and everybody is working very hard, and I'm very, very grateful for their hard work and dedication. So happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you, Amy, for your update. Questions for Amy? Commissioner B.O.C.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just one question I was going to ask you earlier. You just brushed on compression early on, and are we solving that situation throughout the county? I know as the chair of the DPW, we've had issues at the DPW in the past with compression issues as well. So are we making headway on that?
Yeah, we are looking at all of the areas where compression exists, and there are 2 primary contributors to wage compression. One I would call is structural wage compression, and that's where, let's say you've got a manager and a subordinate, and they're both kind of topping out where they should in terms of where the market would value those, or where the market would value those jobs. You shouldn't have structural compression. There should be enough space. So structural compression exists, for instance, where the union position that is subordinate in an example is paid more as it tops out than where the manager is paid, where the manager is topping out. That is a problem that is looking to be solved through negotiations. The other type of problem that exists.
Is that compensation or just wages?
Just wages.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the other problem that exists is in the unions there is a mechanism within a 5.5-year period to get people from the bottom to the market rate for their job. There isn't that kind of mechanism for MPP. So what we've put in place is kind of a temporary fix for that, but we do need to identify and implement some sort of solution that allows for that same progression to happen over time for MPP employees. So it's not only what pay grade are you in and how does it align with market, but is there a mechanism that allows you to move through the pay grade as well?
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Talon.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for your work, Amy. I look at the objectives on page 3, and the last one there I think is a fairly recent one based on the next page, the variance of no more than 5% of the demographic. And coincidentally, recently I was purging stuff from my house because I'm downsizing, and I came across this document, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Report from 2006 and 2007. I think we've maybe done one since then, but I haven't seen one in a while. And I'm a firm believer that what we count, what comes before us is pretty important in paying attention to it. So I'm wondering what's happening with that.
I can actually address that.
Okay.
Since Darius Quinn and I talked just yesterday about it, and I know he and Amy have talked about it, and there is a plan to reinstate that at the very, excuse me, at the very least on a bi-yearly
Which is what we used to do, I
basis.
think.
So
as I recall.
we will be here once every other year basis.
And is that related, that is a piece of the 5% that we're talking about here, right? The no more than 5%, sounds like no more than 5% variance from the workforce demographic is what we're looking to achieve?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this would help us, this would be a piece of how we're doing on that, I would think. Is that-
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Great, other questions for Amy? All right, seeing none, thank you so much for your performance measurement update. We appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda is an action request from the Administrator's Office regarding approval of the contract with the City of Grand Rapids to permit ACSET to continue as the Community Action Agency.
This is a request to recommend to the board to approve a Municipal Partnership Act contract with the City of Grand Rapids to permit ACSET to continue as the community action agency that serves the county. On July 30th of this year, the Board of Commissioners approved a fourth amendment to the ACSET's interlocal agreement to add Ionia, Montcalm, Muskegon, and Ottawa counties to the existing consortium for purposes of operating employment training programs in those counties and consolidating the Michigan Works Service Area in alignment with Governor Snyder's prosperity zones. The Fourth Amendment to ACSET's interlocal agreement eliminates reference to ACSET as being designated as the community action agency that serves the county in favor of a separate agreement under the Municipal Partnership Act. The county and the City of Grand Rapids desire to permit ACSET to continue acting as the CAA that serves the county for the purpose of serving as a primary advocate for the reduction of causes, conditions, and effects of poverty and promoting the social and economic opportunities that foster self-sufficiency for low-income persons. The City Commission of Grand Rapids will consider this proposed contract on September 22nd, and the proposed Municipal Partnership Act contract has been reviewed and approved as to form by Corporate Counsel. There are just a couple of modifications related to the agreement that you received and the agreement that is now in place, just small ones that don't affect the action request. You're still recommending the agreement, but Grand Rapids representation on the governing board will be 2 members rather than 3 to match up with Grand Rapids representation on the ACSET board. The county still has 3 members on the CAA governing board. And then second, a reference was corrected to a section on page 4, section 7C from sections 12 to section 11. So just, that was more of a housekeeping item, but the other one is more substantive.
Great, do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Vaughn, support by Commissioner Shivitz. Okay. Questions or comments? Commissioner Bolger.
I have questions, and I'm sorry to backtrack us on this a little bit, but Daryl, can you tell me what is our financial obligation, or what's the county's portion that we provide to ACSET?
Well, I know we provide
Roughly.
$65,000 to ACSET. That's the budget
65.
amount. It's been pretty consistent for the 20 years I've been around.
Okay. And so we still maintain a majority on that CAA governing board with the 3 and the 2, but then there are other counties. Do they get 1 person?
I'm going to enter
Sorry.
Jacob or
Jacob can ask.
Jacob Moss.
Good morning, everyone. Jacob Moss, currently the Chief Executive Officer for ACSET and Community Action Programs for Kent County, as well as Michigan Works Programs for Allegan, Barry, Kent, Ionia, Montcalm, Muskegon, and Ottawa counties. So 7-county consortium effective October 1st. Governor has signed off and approved our effort around Michigan Works Programs in the 7-county region. But we couldn't have gotten there without a lot of great support from Tom, Matthew, and Wayman really fighting for what's best for Kent County. So I came and answered some questions, I think, a month ago, so please don't ask any more questions about Michigan Works Programs. As it relates to community action programs, I think what we want to do is make sure that we still keep its autonomy and keep it local as far as Kent County goes. I can't stand up in front of you and say that regionalization makes sense for all programs. So I'm sure that we see that pressure coming down from the state from several initiatives and several other programs. But as it relates to membership for Michigan Works programs, there was a compromise that it wasn't quite a House model, wasn't quite a Senate model. So it ended up being that the smaller counties each had 1 vote. Berry, Ionia, Montcalm counties each had 1 vote. The mid-sized counties each had 2 votes. Muskegon, Allegan has a population of about 116,000. And then Ottawa County had 2 votes. And then Kent County technically has 5 votes, including the city of Grand Rapids. And so there's 3 for Kent County as far as representation goes, and then 2 for the city of Grand Rapids. So it was a lot of compromise getting to that. Like I said, Matthew and Wayman were instrumental at some of those meetings, making sure that Kent County had a fair representation, that it wasn't a 1-to-1 vote as far as each of the counties go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Tom, did you want to?
Right.
What is that?
The agreement that you're looking at today is just a community action agreement.
Yeah.
And all we're doing there is basically keeping the voting consistent with the membership on ACSET.
Okay.
So historically, you had 3 representatives from the city of Grand Rapids and 3 representatives from the county on the community action agency issues. Now we're looking at it being 3 and 2. Basically, the city of Grand Rapids has decided that we have worked so well in concert with them and on a consensus basis on the community action agency programs that they don't feel it's necessary to appoint a 3rd member to that governing board. They just want to have their ACSET membership represent them on the community action agency side of the house.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Talon.
This is really mundane, but CAA just feels real confusing to me, and I guess long-term it would be really helpful. I just want to throw out there a suggestion that we think of a way to differentiate in our communication between ACSET CAA and the other CAA. Yeah, because that's especially city and county. I think that's going to get really confusing when it comes up in conversation. So, and in communication. So, just a suggestion as we move forward to start using some.
We'll use the names as opposed to the initials.
Or when we do differentiate or define which CAA it is.
Yes.
Just, I don't know.
What is the other CAA? I didn't know.
The Grand Rapids Kent County Convention Arena Authority.
Okay.
Which we use that acronym around here a lot.
Yeah,
So
we'll make sure we use Kent County Community Action Agency. Well, Community Action Agency of Kent County is typically what we use. So
let's see why. Thanks.
Okay. Other questions regarding the motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll call this to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up is another action request from Administrator's Office, the approval of bylaws for the Governing Board of ACSET.
This is a request to recommend to the board to approve bylaws for the Governing Board of ACSET. The ACSET was reestablished by a 4th Amendment to ACSET's interlocal agreement between the counties of Allegan, Berry, Ionia, Kent, Montcalm, Muskegon, and Ottawa, and the city of Grand Rapids, effective October 1, 2015. As part of the negotiations on this amendment to ACSET's interlocal agreement, the parties agreed that the initial bylaws for the Governing Board of ACSET would be approved by all parties to the agreement. The proposed bylaws for the Governing Board of ACSET have been approved by the counties of Allegan, Berry, Ionia, Montcalm, Muskegon, and Ottawa, as well as the city of Grand Rapids. These bylaws have been reviewed and approved as to form by corporate counsel.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Motion by Commissioner Vaughn, support by Commissioner Antor. Questions or comments on the motion?
So we're the last entity to approve?
Yes.
Any other questions? I had a quick question, Jacob, regarding the other counties. Were there any concerns that came up? Was everybody happy with what the bylaws looked like? Maybe I don't want to ask that.
well, I would say that, so there's 8 parties to the agreement. 7 of the 8 parties had no concerns with the bylaws whatsoever. One of the parties had some concerns around Article 1, Section 9, I think as it relates to a quorum and approval of the budgets. There was some great discussion around what exists of a quorum. Is it 50% of the membership and is it 75% of the 50% that are attending that should approve as it relates to a budget? And what we struggle with as administrative agencies is we didn't want to have problems or have our hands tied behind our back as far as budgets and cutting checks and making payments after after our July 1st start of our fiscal year. And so it will be brought up to the governing board, but if there are substantive changes that need to be made, it's 12 out of the 14 that need to approve the changes to the bylaws. So there was one concern around 75%. Is it 75% of the members present, or is it 75% of the total membership as it relates to budgets and budget amendments? And so we, as an administrative agency, we're certainly concerned that we don't want our hands tied behind our back, that we can't approve a budget if we're already struggling to get 75% of the people to show up just to approve it versus 75% of the total membership. So.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we'll call this to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
That motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6, Board of Commissioners appointment to the Friend of the Court Citizens Advisory Committee.
This is a request to recommend to the board to appoint Enid Gaddis to the Front of the Court Citizens Advisory Committee as advocate for the children's slot and for the unexpired 3-year term ending December 31st of this year. A vacancy occurred on the Front of the Court Citizens Advisory Committee. Solicitation of interested citizens to serve on the committee was conducted. An interview team consisting of Commissioners Brevi, Ponstein, and Talon met to review resumes, select candidates to be interviewed, and make a recommendation to this committee to fill the vacancy. And it's recommended that the Board of Commissioners appoint Enid Gaddis to fill the unexpired term expiring December 31st of this year.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Shibba, support by Commissioner Talon. Any questions or comments on the motion? Commissioner Ponstein.
Beauty before age?
No, you go.
Okay. I just want to add, once again, I was just taken back about the quality of candidates that we're attracting to these boards and commissions. I think we've made great strides in getting a good candidate pool, and we had to pick one. I think all of the ones that we interviewed would have made outstanding candidates.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Talon.
Here. And just to second that, Enid's going to be a fantastic member of that committee. So
Great.
Real excited about that.
All right, thanks for your work on that subcommittee. We appreciate the time you took to interview the candidates. I know that can be a difficult decision sometimes. Any other questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Against, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Next up on the agenda, Board of Commissioners amendment to the Articles of Incorporation for the Grand Valley Metro Council to add Nelson Township and the Village of Sparta.
On August 6, 2015, the Metro Council Board adopted amendment number 39 to its Articles of Incorporation. The amendment adds Nelson Township and the Village of Sparta to the GVMC membership. All local units that have representatives on the GVMC board must approve amendments to the Articles of Incorporation.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ponstein, support by Commissioner Shivas. Any questions or comments on the motion? Commissioner Vaughn.
Have these units of government been partners before?
Sparta was.
Okay, I thought
Yes. And then about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, it came out of or elected to terminate its relationship with GVMC, and then about a year ago, the new village manager, Julia Succi, approached the GVMC about getting membership back into it.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Antwerp.
Do they have to amend this every time somebody drops off for you?
Yes. Pursuant to the Articles of Incorporation, which is also pursuant to the state statute. So,
Thank you.
Other question? Commissioner Talon.
And thank you. Is there anyone left that's not on
Oh, yes.
GVMC? Are there quite a few?
they're not.
In Kent County?
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and call this to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion carries. Next up on the agenda, miscellaneous. Commissioner Miscellaneous this morning. Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you. I'll try to keep it brief. It's been a long morning. This past year for me, time management has taken on a whole new meaning. This past year for NACO, I sat on their steering committee for the environment, energy, and land use. And I was thinking of stepping off that committee. I made those thoughts known. I got a personal appeal from the newly elected president of the organization to stay on. I think she realizes a lot of these steering committees are loaded with western and southern states representation. I know Michigan only has 7 people that sit on steering committees for NACO. So I reluctantly said that I would serve another term. I got that confirmation letter in my mailbox the other day, so I just wanted to make that clear. But to dovetail on that committee, at the annual conference, which is the last time it met, we had a presentation on solar energy, and I'm not going to advocate for or against solar energy, but there was a time when the first computer developed would fill this room, and now those of you that have embraced technology, that thing in your side pocket could probably do more than that computer did. And solar energy is an evolving, emerging technology, and I don't know where it's going to go, but there are some opportunities out there. County made a presentation on, they have leased out one of their closed, capped landfills to a solar energy company to put a solar farm on top of that. Now, I'm not advocating Kent County get into the solar business, but in this county, I know the city of Grand Rapids is currently in negotiations to put a solar farm on the capped Butterworth landfills. Now, I know we've got landfills that will become capped. We always say, how are we going to fund legacy costs? You know, one way to do it is to make the landfill work for you after it's been closed. I don't want to direct anyone. I don't think I have that authority, but I would hope that the administration would at least monitor what Grand Rapids is going through, what pitfalls might be there, and what are the hopes and dreams of that project. And I think it's an opportunity, just like we have found areas of the county to put cell phone towers where we lease off and receive revenue for this. I think this is another opportunity that we might have down the road. I think this is a new area that's being approached. I know that article was in NACO's previous newsletter of the county that put this solar farm on, so if you want more information, you know, it's out there. So I just want to throw that out.
Thank you for that update, Commissioner, and also thank you for your service on the NACO board. We appreciate that. Any other question or miscellaneous this morning? Okay, seeing none, we'll call this meeting adjourned until our next time, September 22nd at 8:30. Thank you.